Dixie Elixirs, the patient's choice for alternative medical marijuana treatment, brings you Dixie Botanicals all-natural topical therapy, including massage oil, pain relief salve, and our newest product, Dixie Botanicals Pain Relief Lotion. This all-natural lotion pairs beautifully with Dixie Botanicals bath salt for a deeply relaxing experience with no psychotropic effect. Like us on Facebook, Dixie Elixirs, or join us at www.dixieelixirs.com.
The law offices of Edson, Maton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
You're listening to iCannabisRadio.com.
Welcome to another Overgrow the Radio. God, it's a great day to be a Coloradoan.
Woohoo! Hooray!
I think we made history a couple days ago.
We did.
64, I think at this point everyone knows Amendment 64 is now law.
Passed. It's legal.
We're going to get into it with our first guest a little bit, who's Warren Edson, one of the attorneys here in Colorado, one of the, I'll just go ahead and call him one of the top MMJ attorneys, we'll say that, and get more in detail, if you will. But yeah, it's huge. I pointed out on Facebook to some people, it's not about me or you or anyone here in Colorado even. This is, I mean, worldwide, this is big. The way that alcohol prohibition ended was one state at a time, and Colorado is now the first state to take that step and be that first domino.
Oh, it's a huge step for the United States just to step up and say, hey, there is a majority of one whole state that thinks that adult users should be able to have access to carrying and using cannabis privately. 2 states. Right. Wait. Washington, too.
I threw you for a loop, didn't I?
Right.
Yeah, 502 also passed in Washington State. That's super exciting. I'm torn on that, and as I started to say before we went live, I'm not going to hit on these in detail because each of our guests we're going to talk to about this tonight a little bit. 502 also put in place a DUID clause. Not a fan of that. There's no science there showing me I'm impaired at 20 nanograms. The fact now that everyone who gets in a car who medicates is essentially subject to going to jail. They're a blood test away from going to jail.
So pretty much every patient would lose their license.
Well, it's a step forward as far as prohibition goes, but at the same time, it's almost this, a step backwards. Any law regarding cannabis or any drug for that matter, in my mind, that adds new crime is not really justified, not really a good law.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see what happens. I have differences of opinions with lots of folks, so I'm sure we'll have some good discussions throughout the show this evening.
Yes, I have high hopes for it.
High hopes. So there was another election on Tuesday as well. Thank God we don't have a new president. That being said, I love Gary Johnson. We promoted him, but when it came down to it, and Obama and Romney, were up in the polls, I got to pull for Obama.
Oh, yeah. If you had to choose between one or the other, and I honestly didn't vote for either one, but if I had to choose, the lesser of the two evils is definitely keeping the same president.
Well, and I'll be the first to say Obama so far has raided 4 times as many dispensaries as George Bush did. 4 times. I mean, let that sink in for a minute. George Bush.
Well, Romney, I think, would probably do 20 times. So
exactly.
Thank
well, not only that,
but
have you ever seen the viral video?
You can't do that to me. You got to turn me on when you make a statement like that. Dude, how many places were distributing weed that people knew about back when President Bush was in office? You were kicking around here 4, 5, maybe.
That's a good point.
And so when you compare that to 759 licensed medical stores in the state during the Obama regime, percentage-wise,
it's not too bad.
I'm guessing Bush loses or wins or how do you. I mean, that's the thing that always kills me when I hear that. Yes, Obama rated more, but there was 10 times, 20 times, however many more places
I guess I
at the point he was
compare
in
it
office.
to
That makes
Cali.
sense.
Sorry.
No, you're good. But I guess
a good point.
in my mind, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but in my mind, and I agree with that, but I always compare it to like just California because of that. Because at the time, there really weren't shops here in Colorado. I think, that being said, I think we've seen since that time, the DEA kind of stays out of Colorado.
Not kind of. They haven't touched a store.
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, who have they touched? They've
testing
touched
facility.
caregivers and people. Well, they touched that caregiving facility, but that was a weird situation where they were actually called in to inspect the equipment, and it hadn't been thought through enough because at the point they came in, they're then federal officers.
Right.
And they have to follow through from there. I
Okay.
mean, it was similar to what we saw in what was called the Canalab raids 2-3
Yeah.
years ago, where in fact that was just weird because the FBI was there investigating car theft and identity theft when they stumble into one of the tenants. The owner of the building was under investigation, and the tenant is an MMC.
It's funny how that happens.
Yeah,
they
What a
did that with
coincidence.
Elisa Kappelman too. It was a broken electric meter that they were there looking at, and that's what led to the flyover and initially the raids.
Unfortunately, in that case, it was 158 million plus or minus of cars and money that was being flown back to Moscow. But whole different story. But it ended up being the tenant. So, we have all these rumors of federal involvement, but it's really not true, except for individuals.
Well, that's one of
Like
the big
Steve.
topics we're going to talk to you about, of course, because I'm buddies with the feds. It's what I do. For anyone listening, that's Warren. I don't know if I introduced you yet, but that's Warren Edson. I briefly talked about
I
you,
jumped
but-
in. I mean, I just couldn't help it. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Absolutely. I think it's a good thing that Obama got back in office. At least whatever he's rated, whatever he's done, he had the cojones to send the memo out to say that they would leave people alone. I have a theory on the raids, aside from that statistic, that a lot of the reason there have been so many raids is a lot of the DEA are still Bush holdovers. And I think, there was a defiance there to a certain extent.
I think so. I think it's also becoming more and more evident that the federal raids are happening in areas where the locals are contacting somebody and
There's
saying, we're sick
cooperation.
of this, we don't want to do this. I mean, it's L.A., it's places like that. Now, granted, the federal letters, that's not the case, but those are easier. I mean, all they do is write a letter and stamp a stamp on it and mail it off to Harborside. So,
Yeah, I think Harborside is doing a really good job about fighting that. I haven't really read much on it lately, but I think them taking a stance against the letter is a good thing. We've watched here in Colorado how many dispensaries at this point shut down because of letters.
Well, and that becomes a debate. I'm not sure how many shut down. They all had to move. My
Right.
guess is I think it's about 57 letters that about 7 have closed.
And
Well,
that's all
maybe-
school related?
And maybe I'm biased.
Yeah, so far the letters have been school related. In California, they were both related to schools and parks with 2 or more playground apparatus.
Oh, okay. So anywhere that kids might be.
Yeah, but it's a little more than that because they required it to be more than an open field that we're calling a park. Because, for our listeners who aren't here, technically places like Colorado Boulevard and Federal are parks because there's a strip in the middle that has trees or flowers and somebody has to take care of them, so the city designates it a park so that then Park and Rec takes care of it. But if you can get a map from the city outline and confuses the crap out of people because it lists Federal as a park. And so there's a broad definition, and they've narrowed it a bit to be places that have permanent playground apparatus and or like baseball fields or soccer fields where it's more than the roll out the goal thing that my kid has for 7-year-olds, but like stuck in the ground.
Right.
We've been lucky enough not to see that here in Colorado yet.
Yet being the key word there.
Yes.
Very, very key word.
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen?
It was exciting with 64, really, and the presidential tripped over that word. Presidential election as well. Both there was a 10% margin. So I think, with that being said, the trend in the election this year, I think people's minds and mindsets are changing. I think especially with cannabis in Colorado, I was very nervous about 64 all the way up until Election Day because we're still pretty conservative here. I mean, I don't know.
Especially like in the southern areas of Colorado and in a lot of the mountain areas too.
Oh, absolutely.
Super conservative.
Yeah, I drive through some of the towns out there to go backpacking, and I think I'm back east in the Appalachians sometimes. Shanties and shacks. And I was joking the other day, you know, I'm not obviously a big supporter of Romney. I feel like he takes care of the higher-ups and the corporations. And I drove up to see a buddy of mine, actually a sponsor of the show, a couple weeks ago, and you know, I'm riding through his neighborhood and I see all these Romney yard signs. And the thing of it is they're in these little tiny houses in the yards. And I thought, wow, what do you folks really think that Mitt Romney is going to do for you as president? I mean, do you really think he's going to swoop in and save the lower class?
No.
His track record absolutely does not say that.
Thank goodness not.
Yeah, so we've got like 5 minutes left, and there is absolutely an important thing I want to get to. Kind of shift gears and be a little negative for a minute. Bob Kraus, last week we talked a little bit about it. I went Friday after the show with him and Cliff Black to the police station to obtain his meds, and we were denied return of his medication. We had a signed court order from the judge that tried Bob's case. We went back, filed a motion because they refused to release them after the case. To digress and educate folks not in Colorado, per our Constitution, in Amendment 20, it states when someone wins a case, and I guess Warren's better at this, but when someone wins a case, they're, in a timely manner, I'm not sure the exact wording, supposed to return the medication and or grow equipment, whatever's involved.
It's no longer, if the jury has determined it's legal and or the district attorney dismissed the case, there's a presumption that it's legal, then the law enforcement shouldn't be able to keep it. Now, that said, there's been an ongoing debate with law enforcement here and in other states about, you know, it's still federally legal. Are we as law enforcement officials breaking the law by handing this to you? Because essentially they're redistributing back to you. I mean, we had that weirdness that I was involved in Boulder, 2 years ago now, Georgia, where there was a break-in in a marijuana center where they stole a bunch of marijuana and hash, and in fact, the solution from the district attorney's office, Dan Garnett, was that I go pick it up, me. And so, yeah, I went up with the two biggest guys I knew and picked up a whole lot of weed and a whole lot of hash and drove it to a dispensary. But, I mean, it's just the weirdest back and forth.
When we went for the motion, that's exactly what their argument was. Well, it's illegal under federal law. And to give the judge credit, a few judges down there actually now have this mindset. He's like, well, if that's the case, then why have you been holding it all through the trial, you know? Mm-hmm. And pointed out a few different scenarios. Well, how'd you transport it to the police station? Wouldn't that also be against federal? You know, so I guess they're going to follow the law when it applies to them, is what El Paso County's doing, and the city of Colorado Springs. It's horrible, you know, to just catch people up before we have to go to commercial. I got a call this afternoon from Cliff, and again, we were scheduled tomorrow to go again at 2 o'clock and pick the meds up, and they've decided that they're going to appeal it. The DA's office, Dan May, decided to use our taxpayer money when we again, for people not in the area, Colorado Springs, we can't patrol all of our streets. We can't keep our street lights on. And here is Dan May appealing a decision to give a 64-year-old cancer patient back his medication.
A decision that was made by a jury from Colorado Springs.
A jury and an order after that signed by a judge. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I don't know where his mind is, how he thinks.
Sure you do. Of course you know where his mind is.
You want me to be nice, though, don't you?
Well, I mean, let's just be honest. The reality is that he's feeling really butthurt about the fact that he thinks that this was a terrible decision, and he doesn't care that Bob is an older, very sick gentleman. I mean, he thinks that cannabis is wrong, and he's doing everything in his power to right what he believes is this horrific wrong. And he doesn't seem to care that a jury of Bob's peers have determined that he was well within his rights to have that medicine and to be able to be healing himself with it. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, it's blatant that Dan May doesn't care about what the voters think down there.
Nor about Bob personally.
I'm trying to be civil. At some point, I would love to have him across the table from me, and I would love to talk to him and ask him face to face, why he does things like this, what the motivation is. I mean, I have my ideas. I think he's a tool of the federal government. I think he has political aspirations. I think he wants to follow in John Walsh's footsteps. I think El Paso County breeds John Walsh's, if you will.
Well, the interesting part, not to get too lawyerly on you, but is we don't have any black letter law in terms of returning items in the MMJ world. And by that, I mean there's no appellate case that says one way or the other what should be done. So this will be the first case that'll do that. And we will see. It'll probably take 9 months, if not longer. But we'll eventually see.
Absolutely. Until now. Well, and the other thing I forgot to add in is also Cliff told me that the city, I believe the city attorney has also filed something through the courts to stop the return. So they're just fighting it tooth and nail. Again, I mean, keep strong, Bob. This is ridiculous. We're going to have Bob and Cliff in at the end of the month on a show, and hopefully by then we'll have something resolved and be able to go into more detail on this story and what plays out.
Definitely.
But my producer tells me I got to pay my sponsors or I'm going to get in trouble. So stick around, and when we come back, we'll actually officially introduce our first guest. We'll be right back. Peace.
Dixie Elixirs, the patient's choice for alternative medical marijuana treatment, brings you Dixie Botanicals all-natural topical therapy, including massage oil, pain relief salve, and our newest product, Dixie Botanicals Pain Relief Lotion. This all-natural lotion pairs beautifully with Dixie Botanicals bath salt for a deeply relaxing experience with no psychotropic effect. Like us on Facebook, Dixie Elixirs, or join us at www.dixieelixirs.com.
The law offices of Edson, Maton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Hi, I'm Josh Stanley.
And I'm Jesse Stanley.
Two of the brothers here from National Geographic's American Weed, and we'd like to invite you to come into our dispensaries in Colorado Springs. Come in for the most pure organic strain selection in Colorado. It's all hand-grown by the Stanley brothers, especially for our patients. So come in and visit us at our two locations, East Platte and West Colorado. And remember,
always be kind to each other.
That Mad Hatter Smoke Shop has everything from space glass to butane and butane accessories, I tell you what. Located at 6091 West Colfax in Lakewood, and now at 2615 Walnut Street in Denver. Ah! God damn it, Reclaim, put your pants back on.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20 of 2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley brothers directly through email. You can get us at gratefuljosh@hotmail.com. Now come on, Colorado. We need to take care of each other. Join the Realm. That's realmofcaring.com. Thank you so much.
Green Monster Glass, a full selection of glass and glass accessories, as well as all of your smoking needs. Stock your dispensary or smoke shop with reasonably priced glass from Green Monster Glass. Green Monster Glass is locally owned and operated. Find us on Facebook or call Daryl at 719-217-5380. That's 719-217-5380.
He always brings me back like when I'm taking that last drink of coffee. Welcome back to Overgrow the Radio. Woohoo. So what's up, Holly G? I didn't even really give you a proper hello tonight, did I?
That's okay. You know, we've been really preoccupied by this awesome vote for 64.
Well, it's really surreal, and I feel at the same time like a little kid on Christmas morning.
It is. It feels really surreal to me. I'm just waiting for it to actually start showing change, and I know it'll take time, but I'm just very excited for the future to come.
Well, I spent all weekend after Friday holding a sign on random street corners throughout Colorado Springs and in front of the courthouse. And
awesome.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sure you got lots of voters.
Well, maybe. I mean, I tend to, God, hundreds of thousands of people went by maybe. The thing, I guess that's when I really started to have some cautious optimism. Honestly, I wasn't really confident that we were going to pass. As I said earlier, it's still pretty conservative. And as I was standing out there, I started to notice that little old ladies and housewives and soccer moms and people that you don't, when you look at them, you don't expect them to support cannabis or cannabis rights.
Or they're closet smokers.
Maybe. Or they're patients. They've discovered living in Colorado that it's a safer medication and it works for them. But God, just the honks and the waves and the smiles and people coming up. It's so crazy in such a small town, but the head jury foreperson from Elisa Kappelman's trial rode by. Then she stopped and held a sign with us for like an hour. So,
oh, wow.
Too
funny.
Randomly drove by, and she's the one that was pretty much responsible for acquitting Elisa from all her charges.
Sweet.
So that was really cool. So speaking of people that, at first glance, you wouldn't expect to support cannabis rights, our first guests, Warren and Georgia Edson, who I consider, well, number one, sort of family at this point. You guys, I've known you for about a year, and I guess you like me. I'm still around.
Do we like him? I mean...
Yeah, most of the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time, yeah. Well, that's then we're family because that's...
Right, exactly.
That's perfect. You guys, I prep you, or prop you up a lot. I consider you guys really in Colorado to be one of the quote-unquote power couples. I find your story very intriguing and interesting because, Warren is an attorney, and I'm really not sure the history of how you wound up in cannabis primarily. Georgia, not so much. I know you had really no affiliation with cannabis, and now it's your life as well.
That's right.
So I want to get, first of all, your guys' reaction on 64.
Yay!
I mean, it's just fabulous it passed. And it is fabulous it passed by 10 percentage points. I mean, this was not a squeaker. This was a landslide. And it's going to be interesting to see as well kind of the political ramifications of the fact that it passed in so many counties.
So was it 60-40? Is that what was
no,
what was the final?
55-45. And it was actually, I think, as the last votes to this right now trickle in, it's probably going to be at more like 54.9 something. But all the newspapers are calling it 55-45. And so, 10 points.
That's awesome.
Is it, as those Facebook memes say, I mean, literally, 64 got more votes in Colorado than Obama did. And
it did.
I'm not joking.
I think
It
people
sounds
almost
like a joke,
were more enthusiastic about that than
not almost.
they were.
It speaks volumes, though, about where our society has moved from. I don't know that people have changed their mind about cannabis. I don't know that they haven't. But what has definitely happened is people are willing to voice their opinion in that they don't believe that cannabis is harmful and in fact believe it should be legal for adults. So whether they've always said that in the privacy of their own homes and just have never felt confident enough to say it in public until now, or if connecting a line on a ballot is private enough to be able to speak that, it really does show that in Colorado, a relatively conservative state, that we firmly believe that this should be legal for adults to use for any purpose.
Well, let's take a step back, though, for the out-of-state listeners, because, if you're hearing us say 64 legalization, broad definition of legalization, right. What 64 allows is once the governor signs the bill, which will occur in about 20 to 30 days, then not even Coloradoans, adults, meaning people 21 and up in the state of Colorado, can possess up to an ounce of marijuana and then 3 and 3 plants. They can also freely exchange marijuana up to 1 ounce with each other, and that's with no remuneration, meaning no barter, no trade, no money. But if I wanted to give Georgia up to an ounce of weed, I could do that if I wanted to. And currently, that is a misdemeanor in most places for marijuana, but it's still a felony for hashish, and the what we call edibles in the medical marijuana world do fall under 64, so that's allowed to happen as well. So let me be clear though, because I did not include non-residents. I mean, it appears that residents will be able to come to Colorado if in fact
Adults.
these stores get set up, adults, and purchase marijuana from these stores. At the point, and if they exist. And beyond that, they could certainly come here, and Jason, you could give them some. So unlike in the past, I mean, if, widespread panic comes on tour, all of a sudden, you have a buddy here from back east, and it wouldn't be illegal for you to hand that person up to an ounce of marijuana. And in fact, you could grow it in your own closet and then hand it to him. And no answering this, okay? But that's currently not legal, in case you didn't know. So I don't want to hear any.
So only if the law is only if you're a resident.
No, it is not.
not.
So, I mean, that's
what
what's
you're
amazing.
saying.
Yeah.
As long as you're 21 or older, then 64 applies to you when you're in the state of Colorado.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we'll
I know
see.
that was a big question.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah.
Well, except that would be, okay, we're saying that again, folks, out of states. Despite claims to the contrary, Mason's backed up this statement, and that being that there are going to be rules to this if and when the recreational model gets worked out in terms of the distribution aspect of it, and those will be primarily created by the Department of Revenue. We can guess that they're going to look like our medical marijuana rules. We can really think that's a good guess because there was a lot of brain damage that went on in creating these suckers. And I find it hard to believe that these folks want to go through that again and recreate something from scratch.
Right.
Well, I think the ideal would be repeal, right? Eventually.
All the rules?
Pipe dream.
Yeah, that is. The problem is there's nothing we sell.
Right.
There are very few things we sell in this state without rules. And given the fact that this is illegal federally, still, my guess is still going to be rules. But there's nothing in the country, though, that you can't, that you buy based on your state residency.
Right.
I mean,
You're right.
we can go into Nevada and gamble. Even
Right.
Medical cards. You have to be a resident in order to get your medical card.
Yeah, that's the only thing, though.
Well, that's unique and hasn't been sued on. And as an attorney, I've always wanted that to happen because it would have been fun as hell to have somebody come from out of state and say, "Screw you," and do this.
Well, there
especially
are
a patient from out of state that have reciprocity in their laws.
That was actually in Amendment 20, if you remember. So that that was something that was part of what was voted on. It's not what was voted on here.
Right.
I expect there to be residency requirements in terms of ownership or investment in these business creations, just because that would be an attempt to appease the federal government and say we're not going to allow at least the money aspect of it to cross state lines.
On those lines, I mean, my question is, from day one when he signs that, it's legal. I can hand you an ounce. What's to stop?
And walk around with an ounce.
Right, and walk around. I don't think we can smoke. I don't think we can medicate. No, I'm sorry. I don't think we can get high in public. I don't
Correct.
have to use the word medicate on this.
And you actually, here's something you can't, I'm not totally anti 1284 and 1043, the rules that govern our medical marijuana. Here's something that'll piss you off, though. Way back when we started teaching these weed classes as attorneys, one of the things I used to joke about was the Colorado smoking ordinance was tobacco specific. Okay? It used to specifically say tobacco, no smoking tobacco here, there, other places, restaurants, public. Now,
Sure.
1043 ratified that to include marijuana. So it actually, while they were making the weed rules, they also slapped in, oh, by the way, we're going to tweak something in a totally different statute so that marijuana is included in the smoking ordinance. So when you hear some of the folks ranting and raving on talk radio, which I heard this very discussion on KHOW today, where people were acting like folks were going to be able to light up joints in the stands at Mile High. No more than you can light up a cigarette.
Sure.
Okay?
I want to address real quick to cut you
It's
off.
respect.
In the chat room, someone's saying you don't have to be a Colorado resident to get a medical card. They're saying you just have to have a mailing address. Well, yes, if you want to break the law, then yeah, you can probably get a red card here in Colorado illegally.
But you're saying you live
But
here.
by law, legally, yes, to be a patient in Colorado, you still need to have a medical card. And as well as that, I want to throw a disclaimer in for Mrs. Edson. I always do that. I call people Miss or Mrs. the wrong way. You actually manage a dispensary, MMD here in Denver, and I know we talked, and some other friends of mine who run dispensaries, people cannot call or come in or knock on your door or drive from Montana to come get medicine at your dispensary through 64, right?
Right. They can't do that. I can't tell you how many phone calls, emails, Facebook messages we got yesterday with people getting really, really excited and wanting to know, what our hours of operation were, and because they were on their way. In fact, I had a couple people come in saying, "Hi, I'm here to purchase," and I'm like, "Oh, that's really great." You can't do that, but that just shows how excited people are about this change.
And that they're not researching things as well.
And their lack of knowledge.
and believe me, I want to pull a total Ken Gorman and have someone give me a pound when he signs the bill and just walk around and hand everyone cannabis. That's what I want to do. So if anybody out there listening has, some to donate, I think it can only be 2 ounces at a time, though, because I'm a patient. But I'd love
You can only walk around with 2 ounces.
I'd love to walk around with someone's T-shirt on and hand out free cannabis to celebrate.
But it can't be in Denver because there's an advertising ban, so you can't have my T-shirt on.
Yeah.
But I can give you a T-shirt on that you can wear in Colorado Springs.
And then there are municipal rules in Denver that don't allow distribution for redistribution, at least of medicinal. So you're going to have to get somebody who grew it themselves to give it to you.
That
and
won't
then
be
you're
hard.
just going to have to go back and forth.
I know one or two growers, just one or two.
You know what else is interesting is on top of those other questions, Holly G, kind of to what you just said, I actually had a lot of people call asking about, growing and where they can get hydroponic equipment and those kinds of things. I mean, things that people had never thought of before.
Right.
They're now interested, which I think is going to be fascinating.
Well, I mean, let's just crunch numbers, because, right now we have just over 100,000 medical marijuana patients, i.e. consumers. Now, once this gets signed by the governor, they're guesstimating roughly 5 million people in the state of Colorado. About 1.2 million are regular cannabis users. If you figure 5%, 10% are going to see what it's like to grow 3 and 3. You're talking 50,000, 100,000 people.
And by 3 and 3, Warren's talking about 3 plant. You can have 3 plants in veg and 3 plants in flower at any given time.
Well, and for the people who don't want to read 64 and just want to call George all day and ask when they can come in, the way this is supposed to work is that by January 2014, the Department of Revenue is supposed to have promulgated rules, meaning create rules, that will allow for the licensing of retail stores. Now, these stores will not be able to be both medical marijuana stores and recreational stores. They will need to be one or the other, and they will have to abide by whatever rules and background checks and yada, yada, yada that our government creates. Now, that can happen sooner. So there has been some rumbling about petitioning Department of Revenue. And I'll give Rico some credit here. He's been pushing hard to get the Department of Revenue to promulgate immediate rules, meaning try to adopt something quick, because of the concern that we're in that weird stage we were in the beginning of Amendment 20, where you're going to have a whole lot of people that can possess cannabis, grow cannabis, but they can't get it anywhere. And so that could it should give rise to the black market.
Right.
Because, again, once it hits their hands, it becomes legal weed. So that is what should happen. Now, the amendment also says that if the state government doesn't create rules by that January 2014 date, then you can apply with the locals, your municipal or county authorities, for one of these licenses. But guesstimating here, but as we've seen with the medical marijuana world, the city licensing authority hasn't exactly been brave and tried to break new ground. They've been following the state.
Especially not in Colorado Springs. We're not the most progressive city in our state on anything, let alone
even in
cannabis.
Denver. I mean, even
Well, Denver
in,
did and got their ass bit because, they passed rules that then, the legislature created new rules. And so Denver gets stuck like Stickman here, calling these things dispensaries when they're really medical marijuana centers. And so they had to go back through and change all their rules because they had dispensary licensing.
You almost made me
and all of a
spit
sudden,
coffee on myself.
sorry, man. And there all of a sudden no more dispensaries.
and then they'll tell you, wait, you don't have a license yet. You're still a dispensary. Stop calling yourself a center.
And then it's like,
Oh, no,
well, that makes you call.
Yeah, doesn't it make your head hurt? It's
So-
like
silly.
the
It's silly.
MMED. It's actually the MMCED. I believe it's still that, right? The medical marijuana
Criminal enforcement divorce. Yep.
So people always drop that C, and I like to leave it in there. I mean, because they still
didn't know
do
there was-
criminalize us. So I mean, why not leave that criminal in there?
Well, we're going to see. They're probably going to be in charge of regulating this whole thing. But I guess, I'll rain on the parade because, I'm Mr. Negative and all. So,
Please do.
okay, what's going to happen? We're going to immediately be able to have an ounce of weed in our pocket and plants at home, okay? And that's going to have a number of fantastic effects. Obviously, the criminal ones everybody has thought of. And that's going to trickle down to our municipalities, which for our out-of-state listeners, if you don't know, we live in this weird home rule state where the municipal government, meaning the cities, can create rules that are worse than our state up to a point, meaning a year in jail and $1,000 fine. So we have this weirdness where municipal-wise, you can be in Denver and want to drive to a concert in Red Rocks. And so you're in Denver where there are no criminal penalties against marijuana, drive into Lakewood where you face up to a year in jail and $1,000 fine, then drive out of Lakewood into Golden where it's something like $50, and then drive back into Red Rocks, which is Denver, where once again you fall back into, just chaos all in your 12-mile drive. But, that's going to be gone, and so that BS is done. That's really good. Now, stores, though, don't come till these rules happen, and we're going to see whether the federal government puts pressure on our state legislature to not enact those rules.
Well, there's a couple more questions I wanted to get to. That's one of them. I want to digress a little bit.
That's my bad.
When we're talking about licensing, a big concern I heard before the vote was that, it's going to be taken over by big tobacco. I know the truth in that there's whatever it's called, first right to refusal for current license holders. I want you to explain that in more detail, though.
And it's so hard to
we don't
answer
really
because
know
we don't have rules.
Yeah,
The
we don't
micro-rules
know
aren't
how
there.
many.
Yeah, who knows
but-
what's really going
Look,
to happen?
So if we assume that the rules look like they do for medical marijuana centers, there's going to be 1,000-foot buffer between the retail stores. Okay, and so what's written into 64 is that the current medical marijuana center owners, sometimes dispensary owners, depending on the city, get first dibs at the licenses. Okay, so they get first dibs at nailing down their 1,000-foot footprint. Okay, and that's what we can kind of sort of expect. As most of the owners know, there aren't many footprints left in this city right now. There aren't many places where, one, you can fit between parks and schools and other centers and residences, and then two, you're doing that under the Denver measurements as well as the federal measurements because they're different, and you're finding a landlord who's willing to rent you the place, and the landlord isn't quadrupling or more the price because he or she knows that they have one of the last locations in town where one of these businesses can go in. So that's my guess in terms of their ability to get first dibs on licenses.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think everything, as I've repeated myself time and time again, right now from both sides, to a certain extent, everything's speculation because you just said it. We don't have our rules. We don't know. I think we can all take hope, and there's going to be folks like you and I hopefully working with these legislators to create these rules, and folks with level heads and organizations with level heads who will think of the patients and keep them protected, who will think of the recreational users and put us on the right track. I think a big point that we have to make here that someone actually made to me on Facebook, some random person from out of state. I made the point on Facebook to a person I had been debating with that, sorry, Warren. Warren's rig sitting behind my screen here, and I accidentally might have hit it. Holly's rig.
No problem. What's up?
But point being that they really, from here on, we're going to be in a fishbowl. Not just in the country, not just here in Colorado from the people who oppose 64. Worldwide, people are really, really watching us because we have to be a model and we have to move
We have the most
forward.
liberal marijuana rules in the world.
In the world.
Right, and we have
For those
to
of you who don't
handle
know,
this correctly.
Amsterdam is 5 grams. Okay?
Exactly.
Personal
yeah.
possession in Amsterdam is 5 grams.
So
What's
fly to
Washington?
Colorado.
Do we know? 'Cause since they passed, do you know what their
I
limit is?
it's
Listen
a
on Monday
lot.
night when we have
You know,
Steve Elliott on, and he will walk us through what's going on. He and Warren are going to walk us through what's going on, and we'll go.
If I had it on, I could click on it. I know it's more than we have. But again, but the issue there is more the 5 nanogram DUID,
Right.
the inability to grow, because you can't grow at home in Washington, and you can't pass to another
You can't
person in
distribute.
Washington. That'll still be a felony. So how weird will that be? You're sitting in your living room
How
and
do
your
you
buddy
get-
wants a bong hit, and you can't pack him one. Well, dude, you can, but you have to run down to the store, get your own bag, and come back.
You can
Right.
But, hey,
yeah, you can pack your own, but I can't share with
That's
you.
not
Yeah.
going to happen.
So they get an ounce.
I'm going to go to the fridge right now. Wink, wink, nudge,
I gotta
nudge.
go potty. Waiter's
yeah.
right here.
Yeah, but don't touch it.
It's an ounce, so they're a few grams more. But you make a very
Ounce,
valid point.
okay.
Why would you go to Amsterdam when our cannabis is better and you can carry what?
Well, you
4
can't legally grow
four
in
times
Amsterdam
as many?
either.
Right.
I mean,
It's
for people who don't
really
know, the
restricted.
whole growing thing is all underground. So, I mean, the one thing they have that we don't is that ability to go into an establishment and consume cannabis.
Absolutely.
Now, over the last few years, they've cranked way down on the ability to serve booze and weed in Amsterdam. And at least when I was there last year, there were only 2 places left in Amsterdam that
Yeah.
did that.
They don't mix the two.
Well,
yeah,
it's not. Is it even technically legal? It's
No, it is
tolerated,
not.
right?
No, it is not.
Yeah.
One is barely tolerated now.
Right.
I mean, the 2 places are smaller places and don't give a shit.
They did just repeal the weed pass.
They did
Yeah,
do
we
that.
talked about that,
Yeah.
I think, last week a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
yeah.
think we're going to take
So we're definitely going to be in the spotlight. But
Yeah, I cut everyone off, don't I? I'm good at that.
Let's talk about that though, because I think that's an interesting segue.
has to
When we
pay
get
money.
when we get
Yeah,
back
we
from
got
the
to pay
break.
bills.
When we get back from
Come
the
on,
break.
Georgia, we've got to pay our sponsors.
Like no to Urban Garden Supply.
Yeah, of course. So we'll be right back. Stick with us here on Overgrow the Radio. Peace.
Let's face it, rules and regulations are complicated, especially in the field of medical marijuana. Let Medical Marijuana 101 help you get through the compliance process. We can also explain to you your employment requirements, your employees, and your business. But our work doesn't stop there. Our experience in cultivation ranges from the design of grow rooms to the diagnosis and resolution of grow problems. Visit us at www.medicalmarijuana101.com or call 303-388-7706. That's 303-388-7706. Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it on grass. runongrass.com. We Grow Colorado, the premier medical marijuana dispensary in Colorado Springs, is proud to be a part of the medical marijuana community. We Grow Colorado works hard to make every patient feel comfortable and informed. With a great selection of medical cannabis in multiple forms, the patient finds many premium choices to aid in their self-treatment. The staff at We Grow Colorado is another large part of what makes We Grow Colorado the #1 choice for many patients throughout the state. Visit them today at 2502 East Bijou Street in Colorado Springs for an experience that will last and last.
Dixie Elixirs and Edibles, the patient's choice for alternative medical marijuana treatment. Dixie Elixirs infuse sparkling beverages. Dixie Edibles, dewdrops, tonics, and Dixie Scripts extraordinarily concentrated cannabis extract capsules, along with Dixie Botanicals, all natural topical therapy. All of these medicinal remedies are available at your local medical marijuana center. Like us on Facebook Dixie Elixirs, or join us at www.dixieelixirs.com.
The law offices of Edson, Maton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Hi, I'm Josh Stanley.
And I'm Jesse Stanley.
Two of the brothers here from National Geographic's American Weed, and we'd like to invite you to come into our dispensaries in Colorado Springs. Come in for the most pure organic strain selection in Colorado. It's all hand-grown by the Stanley brothers, especially for our patients. So come in and visit us at our two locations, East Platte and West Colorado. And remember,
Always be kind to each other.
Hey, welcome back to Overgrow the Radio. I think someone just called us on Skype. Are we talking to someone on Skype for a second?
Who's calling?
Hello?
Anyone there?
Hello?
Hello?
Who's there? Can you hear us?
Yeah, my name's Doug. I'm in Kansas City.
Hello, Doug.
Hey, Doug.
What are you calling about?
I just wanted to let you guys know that what you guys are saying about the outsiders from the other states coming in and not knowing that, it's a Denver thing going on. I think it's awesome, and I'm trying to get a lot of people, from the Kansas area, Missouri area, to start watching this right now, because you guys are saying some awesome things a lot of people need to know. Instead of just huffing it to Colorado and think they're going to just go get high.
Right on,
this
bro.
is nationwide for sure. This is a huge step.
Well, Missouri is definitely a draconian state, man. I actually lived in St. Louis for a couple of years, so I've been there. You guys, you're working on medical. I know there's a lady who actually has worked with our next guest, Ed Rosenthal, Angela Bacca. You should look her up on Facebook. She works with the people in St. Joe. After a couple of horrendous raids there, she took on that cause. And hook up with them and help them get stuff passed, and you guys will be right behind us.
Yeah, spread the good word.
Holly knows me. I helped her out with the 420 rally in OA. I just wanted to tell her thanks for the hookup on the link, and I'm going to continue to listen until it ends.
Thanks,
Thank
brother.
you. Awesome.
Well, enjoy the rest of your night.
Thanks, you too, guys.
Bye.
That's so cool.
Right? Yeah, I didn't mention, but I got to produce a show last night at the last minute, and I discovered that, hey, we can take calls. Hey, their whole show is based on calls. So from now on, we can actually take Skype calls. So we'll work that out in the future, and we'll get some more voices on the air. Before we do run out of time, we've got a good 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes left. Something that you guys and I share is we're both parents, and that's a touchy subject in some states more than others.
Sure.
I have heard some horror stories here in Colorado, but it's not as bad as some places. We were just talking during the break how hard it is just to come out as an activist in some states, but to do that as a parent is nearly impossible because, if they... certain state organizations come across that, your child's gone, and that's the end of the story. So I guess, my first question is how young did you guys teach your little one about cannabis?
I don't think that I know the age that we started. I think we always talked to him about cannabis. And let me back up for just a second. I think that I'm always asked to talk about parenting and what it's like and Warren and I.
For some reason, I'm not.
Because you have other things that you can talk about. That's kind of the one thing that I can offer, I think. But we were always just really, really honest and looked at the most age-appropriate way to talk about it. And, little kids don't need a ton of information. They need to know that it's not for them. Mm-hmm. They need to know that there are things that adults do that kids don't do. And then that's one of them. We also, as he got older, our kid is socially awkward, but has really
Mine
good
too.
Observational skills. And so I remember one time we were at a hotel and there were people smoking outside at the pool. And our son looked out the window and he's like, oh my gosh, all those people are smoking. That's disgusting. And it was funny because, do you remember this? I realized it was at that moment, he must have been 2 or something. At that moment, I realized he had no idea the difference between smoking tobacco and smoking cannabis. And he was so disgusted by the fact that he thought that all these people were smoking tobacco that I realized that he was too young to know the difference. And so, it was difficult because we couldn't say smoking was bad because despite the fact that all of you know that I despise tobacco. That was a confusing and hard thing for him to understand. So as he got older, and he's always known patients. He's always medical marijuana has been legal in Colorado his entire lifetime. He's never known prohibition for medical purposes in his lifetime, and so he's known a lot of patients, and we've been able to explain different medical conditions and how cannabis helps them. And you just give your kid the information that they can handle. We think that they want 10 yards of information, and they really want 2 inches. So that's kind of been our approach.
Did you guys, we were talking during the break, so I kind of know the answer, but there are tools, and I know we both use the same in this instance. Are there tools that you used along the way? Because, I know I'm the same way in that for me it's always been taught that it's medicine. And it's funny, my daughter can see edibles and she won't touch them because she knows they may be cookies or suckers, but she knows they're dad's and they're his medicine.
Daddy's medicine.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And did you guys use teaching aids, if you will, along the way?
Not really. We were talking about that cute children's book, It's Just a Plant. But our son wasn't particularly interested in it. He likes books, but he felt like at the point in time that we shared it with him, and I can't remember how old he was, he felt like he already knew that. He already knew that it was a plant. The other thing that
how stupid was that?
Right. Duh, it's a plant.
That was kind of the reaction we got. Well, yeah.
I think that's about what I remember from that book. It's a great
book.
It is, and I think for parents completely different than us,
right?
It may be a great tool, but
well, and it was written a while, 10 years ago,
exactly,
when there was still a huge stigma on cannabis. So it's changed a lot now. So maybe he'll update it.
Well, I know, like with me, I sat down literally at the computer with Sophia and showed her articles and statistics and facts. Warren and I were talking earlier before the show, you don't want to lie to your kids.
No.
Your kids will resent you, and not only resent you, but there's that whole taboo thing. When you teach your children something is taboo, it just really makes them want to.
Sounds awesome. All of a sudden it's awesome. Yeah, exactly. It must be awesome. The other thing that's different is that our kid grew up in an environment where he heard his daddy talk publicly about marijuana, and in a legal sense.
Well, and we drag them everywhere.
Everywhere.
Whether it's sporting events, whether it's political events, wherever, we take him a lot of places.
Sure.
And, while I'm not their best supporter right now, he grew up going to normal conferences.
Sure.
Twice a year he'd go to a normal legal conference, once in Aspen, once in Florida, and then he'd go to the annual normal conference as well. So he kind of just saw this argument for marijuana and safer than alcohol, that kind of stuff since before he knew what was going on. And sounds snooty, but what's he around, whether it's a normal conference or the legal conference, kind of the top-notch activists and the top-notch attorneys on this. So he wasn't seeing, it being treated like a party drug, like people getting in trouble, like people passing out in the hallway. He was seeing really respected activists speaking eloquently about marijuana, about arrest rates, about people going to jail for something that is just stupid. And that's what he knows. So it just kind of sponged in.
Absolutely. Well, before we leave, I'll just let you sound snooty. And, I just want to congratulate you guys because you're both, we didn't get into it, and I apologize, but you both wear many hats and are involved in many organizations on the state level. donate a lot of your time, just like all of us around the table do. And I think, as big as this is, it's a huge accomplishment for each and every person who was out there with a sign, a voice, whatever the case may be. We all did it, and we did it together. So thanks for all your guys' hard work on 64.
Well, you guys too. I mean, that's what it took to get this done, and it's just going to be an interesting few years here.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I think we've got a show or two in the future with you, sir.
Maybe.
I hope so. Be good to have you guys
we
back.
may have some legal issues come up, so.
Oh dear!
Hopefully not.
No. We may be dissecting 64 in the future. That would have been better wording.
Right.
So absolutely, we'll have plenty to talk about. Thanks again for coming on.
It's great to have Holly G. For those of you that have listened to Holly G in the past, there's nothing better than to have your voice back on the air. So we are thrilled that you are back where you belong.
Absolutely. Well, and I should publicly thank Mrs. Edson. I almost did it again. For introducing us.
When I can take it from my mother. Mom's here. Damn it. Mom, it's supposed to be here next week.
We have a whole week. Yeah.
Well, go get a pen from your grandmother. Stop hugging us.
So you actually introduced us, and it's worked out beautifully. She came in for a trial run. She didn't punch me in my face. We got along great. And here we are.
Good. Well, and can I please really quick plug our Monday show?
Yeah,
we are going to talk about the election in general on Monday. Warren's going to be back for the show on Monday. We're going to have Steve Elliott from Toke the Town, who has publicly declared.
In Washington State.
Right, Washington State publicly declared his hatred for 502, and so now that it's passed, he will also dissect it with Warren as well. So we're going to talk through more of what's going on and what these changes mean, not just for us, but broader than Colorado.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tune in.
I'm excited about that.
I have my issues with 502. I don't know if you caught the very beginning, but I ran it a little bit. It's a step forward and a step backwards, all in the same step. So, all right. Well, thanks again for coming in. And real quick, I might as well just use your segue to do what I was getting ready to do and talk about all of our shows. Tuesday night, everyone has to tune into Sexpot Radio, and the Stanleys took a little hiatus. Realm Radio
coming back. I've talked to Josh today, and he's going to have a great new show starting in just a few weeks.
What will that be about?
It's going to be he and Dr. Shackelford. So they're going to maintain kind of that patient-centered stories platform, talk about the importance of different cannabinoids, some of the things that they've been doing with kids. Cool. It's really going to focus on expanding people's understanding from a medical standpoint.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, as everyone that listens to our show likes to point out, I think it's time to take our back right.
Get our back right,
and that's why she's my co-host. Stick with us here on Overgrow the Radio on iCannabis Radio.
Peace.
Green Monster Glass, a full selection of glass and glass accessories, as well as all of your smoking needs. Stock your dispensary or smoke shop with reasonably priced glass from Green Monster Glass. Green Monster Glass is locally owned and operated. Find us on Facebook or call Daryl at 719-217-5380. That's 719-217-5380.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20 of 2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley brothers directly through email. You can get us at gratefuljosh@hotmail.com. Now come on, Colorado. We need to take care of each other. Join the Realm. That's realmofcaring.com. Thank you so much.
The law offices of Edson, Maton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
And we're back. I know that break was just a little bit long, but Holly kept doing dabs and smoking bowls, so I'm
Medicating.
just going to blame it on you. I wasn't medicating. I was getting high because now it's legal to get high.
It's legal.
So I medicated before the show, but at 8 o'clock I just got high. And I thought I'd do a dab on camera just to commemorate today. It is historic this week. We do have that ability. We're perfectly legal here in Colorado.
Well, as soon as we get the bill signed.
My glaucoma was cured today.
What's that?
My glaucoma was cured.
Nice.
That's right.
Mine too. My preventative medicine for my glaucoma was...
But I'm afraid that when I go back to Colorado, it will flare up again.
Well, our next guest, Ed Rosenthal, that's who that was. He's accompanied by the lovely Shelley. She says she's going to be quiet, but I'll make her talk at some point. You guys, thank you so much for coming in. I'm actually honored to have you in the studio.
The guru of ganja.
Well, happy to be here. You know, it's so strange because on Tuesday evening, actually Wednesday morning, I smoked the first semi-legal joint in my life.
Nice.
I mean, it was only half legal, right? I mean, well, Colorado's legal, but the feds aren't. So,
Right.
So, you know, like 50% legal. So I only smoked half of it.
Well, we talked. I have an attorney friend down south that I work with who told me a couple weeks ago that he was going to take election day and the day after off because he wanted to smoke his first ever legal joint. So he calls me the day before. He's like, I couldn't wait, so I smoked half an illegal joint, and I'm going to wait till tomorrow and smoke the other one legally. So, we talked about that the last time we had you on the show on the phone. You've actually, like me, I'll just say you're friends with the feds. You've been down that road. How do you feel? I mean, what do you think's going to happen with 64 on a federal level? How do you think what do you think their reaction is going to be?
I really have no idea of how they're going to react or what's going to happen. But it is good that your Attorney General, who opposed the initiative, said he would vigorously defend it. So that's a good sign, as opposed to what happened in Montana.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely. He's not been good for even patients in Colorado up until this point. So the fact that a few people have come out at this point, I meant to get to that with Warren, and we ran out of time. And that's huge because that says a lot, because we are not known for John Walsh being in favor of anything cannabis-related, ever.
Yeah.
So
definitely not. Well, it's good to have you for sure. I think that one big question is, where were you when the election happened and we got cannabis legal here in Colorado?
I was here.
What were you doing?
Hanging out.
Well, you're in town, I believe, right, for the NCIA?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about that, what you're here for.
Well, it's not NCIA. It's a marijuana business conference, and it's a investors conference where, you know, all these entrepreneurs, and it's a totally different group of entrepreneurs than previously, are looking at marijuana, and they're looking at, for instance, there's one company, Dixie, and they make all these infused drinks, and their plans are to become a gigantic company, and that's basically what their business plan is, and you know that they say they're in 500 dispensaries here.
Yeah, Dixie.
They're in all but like 10%, I think, it's a huge number. We're pretty proud of Dixie. They're a sponsor of our show, and they announced their release of their CBD products on the show. They came on the day after, so that coincided. And they actually came on the show a few weeks ago. They do a monthly segment, and the last segment they came out in support of 64. Yeah.
But they're
good people.
You know, they're also they're a different level of entrepreneurship than previously, and so the conference definitely isn't suits and old men. It's very mixed, but these people were serious, and there's a level of seriousness about the business that previous generations of marijuana entrepreneurs just didn't have.
So exactly. I mean, that's my question is when you have these venture capitalists with all this money and they're looking for solid investments. I mean, do you feel after attending something like this that they see the cannabis industry now as something solid?
Well, there's a much different feeling this year than there was a year ago, and there was pretty much apprehensive, and now it's full speed ahead. Especially here locally in Colorado, and people feel that that this is going to enlarge some industry. You can, as I understand it, you can choose medical or not or recreational. So it's going to but the marijuana. So the medical industry might shrink, but the entire industry could become very, very large.
You think?
But I want to say this. I think that medical should not be taxed because it's a transfer of wealth from sick people who usually are getting poorer by the day to the state, and I don't think that's how the state should earn its money.
Sure.
I have no problem with taxing recreational use, but I don't, there's not a tax here on prescription drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And there shouldn't be a tax on medical marijuana. There just shouldn't be that.
I agree.
I can understand that it was convenient for us to accept the tax when that was the only route, but I don't think that that's acceptable now. There has to be a change in that.
Well, and one of the big arguments against 64 was the fact. Well, not a fact, the theory that we couldn't change it afterwards. And, I have a simple answer for that would be our 1284, House Bill 1284, which came after Amendment 20, where we came in and made rules. And organizations here locally worked with legislators, and that's how that happened. The same thing will happen again. We talked earlier. Hopefully it'll be folks like Warren and I, one of the organizations I sit on down in the Springs. Hopefully we'll be involved, he'll be involved, people with level heads, and we'll move forward in a proper direction. And that's actually what I was going to ask is, you've been around the industry for a couple of years. If you were to give advice to Colorado looking in, I mean, it's obviously a first. So we're going to stumble, we're going to trip, we're going to make mistakes. If you could give advice to our industry in moving forward, what would be your first piece of advice? And doing it properly, I should say.
You guys are doing it right. You're leading the country in this. So I don't really have any. I'm just here enjoying the fruits of your labor.
All right. Well, let's have fun. You mentioned before the show, I don't think you're very secretive about using cannabis. You're a concentrate guy, am I correct?
Well, first of all, I want to tell you that I do not use it for recreational reasons. And,
sure.
I was using it for I had a latent glaucoma.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, because it was latent, you couldn't tell. And the only way that you could tell would be by not using marijuana, and then I'd have irreparable eye damage, and I just wasn't willing to have that. And suddenly, on Tuesday, actually, I felt that the glaucoma was getting much better.
Nice.
Really amazing.
Have you tried oil at all?
Well, so I want to continue with this but the real reason why I've been using marijuana all these years is because I was in a short-term experiment I was experimenting with marijuana, and then the decade changed, but I felt that my experiments hadn't been completed. I was still experimenting with it. And then after another decade, I realized that this was going to be a longitudinal study.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
And now, you mentioned the DEA that I had a run-in with them, and you won't believe this, but so did you read or hear about these tunnels between Mexico and the U.S.?
Oh, sure.
And
air conditioned, wired,
they found
with
50.
lights.
One of them, they found 50 tons of marijuana.
Right.
Sure.
And I figured it out with the 50 million smokers. It would have lasted like between 12 and 24 hours. So the DEA would have to find like a tunnel or the equivalent every day, just to stop the flood of marijuana from coming in.
To justify their existence.
Just to stop it. So, and I realized that they did not have the manpower to do it. They just did not have the resources to do that. So I decided to start an auxiliary corps to help them. And so the idea of this corps is to stop so much marijuana from clogging up America, because if this marijuana keeps on coming in like this and people are growing it, first you'll see it as a patina on the streets, and then you'll be clogging through it, and you'll say, when are the marijuana sweepers coming? So in order to stop this from happening, I thought that what I would do is help the DEA by forming an auxiliary team to go out and look for, find, seize, and destroy as much marijuana as possible. So
through inhalation?
Well, yes, and using what I like to call a portable hazardous waste incinerator. I believe I have one of those, so everybody can see that.
An electronic cigarette.
Everyone should have one.
Portable hazardous waste incinerator. And sometimes the associates, thousands of people have signed the pledge to help the DEA in this. So some people use special thermal papers, which you might see available. Have you ever seen those thermal papers?
No. I have a question. Do you get
people roll them up?
Do you get public service hours for that? Like if you're on probation, can I go sign up for that? Is that a program that I can help with?
It's not a formal program, but you know what? You can sign up. You can join up, but you can't sign up. Now here's how you can join up. You can take the pledge. Do you think that people would like to take the pledge? Okay, I promise.
Everyone raise your hand.
We can
raise your right hand.
Raise your right hand.
I promise.
I promise
to look for. Find. Seize. And destroy.
And destroy.
As much marijuana as I possibly can.
As much marijuana as I possibly can.
Daily.
Well.
For the rest of my life.
Am I deputized now?
You are now deputized. Yes. You're all deputies, and all the people over the air who raise their... Now, if you raised your left hand, you're not part of this.
Commie.
If you raised your right hand, and of course, people who only have one hand, that's okay if they raise their left hand. Or people who have problems raising their right hand, then it was okay. So I don't mean to, but in general, if you were just trying to be ornery and wouldn't, it's obviously that they couldn't follow the rules of this organization to look for, find, seize, and destroy as much marijuana as possible.
I mean, if you can't follow the basic requirements, then you may not be able to light the lighter to destroy the trash.
Right.
So cool.
I'm going to celebrate this. Hold on for a second.
Right on.
I'm looking for it now.
It's there's a lot of reason to celebrate, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're in Colorado. You were here on a historic day. That's got to be pretty cool.
Well, I looked and I seized.
And now destroy.
Now I'm going to destroy.
And we can only not condone that.
Oh no, there's extra. We better get rid of it.
Yes, because it could be bad. It could fall into the hands of someone that it shouldn't.
No, we could do a communal thing. I mean, and then everybody could report it to the DEA psychically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they never visit iCannabisRadio.com.
Well, we hope they do.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I hope I'm educating feds every day.
Or they listen to our recording later and.
So I was going to ask you if concentrates.
What about them?
Colorado, California.
Yeah.
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 Good.
They have them in both places, yeah.
They're both good, yeah.
Well,
have you found a favorite?
Well, it's a clean Colorado air, How can you beat that?
A mile high.
Yeah.
I know one big question we even had in our chat. I don't know who can answer it, but are concentrates and oils and hashes on the list for our new amendment? Does that also qualify?
They are. Warren actually touched very briefly and said that edibles are included. So I
so that
believe
includes
that
hashes.
includes any concentrate. The way it's framed through the MMED is that concentrates and hashes are edibles technically.
Okay.
So I would assume anyway that would.
So
be the
we're going to have to start eating the hash and the waxes and the oils and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Peanut butter and wax.
I have an amazing Atmos that I can fill up with oil, and it's become my best friend. Like, I carry that thing everywhere. Here in Denver, you can medicate pretty much walking down the street, and no one cares.
Privately, though.
Privately, in an alleyway, so no one sees it. And they make this great pen, for folks out of state, where basically you unscrew the top, you fill it with oil, you're good for, maybe a couple days for me. So I have to do this as an official pledge as part of my oath, I believe.
And someone asked what dabbing means in our chat, and I just wanted to say that dabbing is a form of smoking that you do with oil concentrate, or you can do it with bubble hash too. It's just a way of smoking out of an apparatus. Instead of a bowl, you're dabbing oil.
Remember, a little dab will do you.
It will.
Yes, that's smart advice.
That's why I only took one initiation toke there. Was my little dab.
That's because the pipe only went around once.
That's another reason why. So I don't know what have you been up to in Colorado? Has Shelley, have any of your friends taken you out for anything fun? Is there anything you like to do when you're in state?
Well, I've been working since I got here.
So what do you want to do while you're in Colorado?
Continue working.
And incinerating trash?
Yeah, yes. But I've been at this conference all day, and it's on tomorrow. And then I'm in Colorado Springs somewhere. Where am I? Somewhere in signing books in Colorado Springs.
Do you have any plans for any new books? Do you have plans for any new book release soon?
Actually, I have this book coming out that is very unusual for me because it's called Protect Your Garden, and it's not a marijuana book. It's based on Marijuana Garden Saver, but it's expanded to include pests and diseases that marijuana doesn't get, and the goal of it is for it to, and it doesn't have any marijuana in it, and the goal is for it to get into hydro stores in places where it's, they can't mention marijuana, which is no longer in Colorado, I guess.
Hopefully not. Well, I know that might still be a gray area because they get their stuff from other states.
No, but here's the thing. If I learned this today at the conference, that paraphernalia is going to be legal in Colorado, and if it's legal in Colorado, it's not. If it's legal in that particular state, then it isn't illegal federally. So the federals follow the state laws if the states opt out of that. So, yeah.
That's good.
So I'm going to give you a quick plug, shameless plug here. You actually, or maybe your other half sent me some of your most recent books here. Is it similar, other half?
Yeah.
Business partner.
Oh, yeah.
and I won't say her name, but
You
sorry.
can say her name.
It's Jane, right?
Jane, yeah.
Jane, okay. Yeah, Jane actually sent me these, and they've been great, and I've thumbed through them many times. Is the one that's non-cannabis, is it similar to this?
No,
Where
it's
it goes
more like the previous book that I did, which was called Marijuana Garden Saver.
Sure.
And that was more of a field guide, but it's a little more detailed than the field guide, but it's less detailed than this. The book that you just showed, Marijuana Pest and Disease Control, was a group of monologues that I wrote on individual pests and disease that are likely to attack marijuana, and each one of them was written from the pest point of view. Like what they like, where they hang out, their reproductive style, things that they like to do, their whole lifestyle. And then it has the controls for each one of them. And the first rule of that book, as you might read, is don't use any pesticide or fungicide whose ingredients you can't pronounce.
That's a pretty good rule.
Yeah, it's probably
Right.
Well, and you just brought up a really good point, and being the guru of ganja, I got to touch on it. It's more than just planting a seed and trying to get rid of pests. It is the environment, and I think you preach that through a lot of, well, this book in particular. If you breed that environment, you're going to have issues.
Well, you mean it? Well, the environment is everything, just as that it is with animals. That there are 5 main factors, and that's light, CO2, and oxygen, but really mainly CO2, temperature and humidity, nutrients, and water. And so if you meet the plant's needs in those factors, and then the plant will grow well and meet its genetic potential.
So I've got a friend who may be coming by who, and forgive me for which seat it was, but he texted me the other day. He helps out here at the studio from time to time. He's an activist here in town. And apparently he's been working with one of your seeds for quite a while now, maybe even a decade. And he wants to get your feedback on it. So
Which seed is that?
Oh, God.
Because
If you'll give me a minute in our conversation, I will find that text.
Okay, because I did have a clone factory until February of 2002, but after that, I never was really producing seeds in that clone factory. So a lot of people, a lot of varieties are attributed to me, but the varieties that I brought into the world or that I didn't even really develop them. I just happened to find them were like the first Afghani series that Seed Bank had. That was one of them. And
Superbud?
well, that was developed by Sensi Seed, and actually it's it was just the name was given to me. My name was used just to as an honor to me.
Nice.
And they have the Jack Herer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They do that. The ironic thing is that probably more people know Jack as a seed rather than as a human being.
Right.
Which is sad because
it.
if you to plug his books, if you don't have The Emperor Wears No Clothes on your coffee table, you're really not an advocate.
You have
Well,
to get
I
it.
wouldn't
it's like-
say that. I think that there are a lot of people who already, I think that he did a great job. He was on a 30-year book tour and publicity tour for hemp that actually succeeded and made hemp viable when, if he hadn't been around, hemp would be a dead crop. It wouldn't be.
Sure.
It wouldn't. It's doubtful that it would have continued even in Europe, or I don't know about China, but really the demand is growing because of the work that Jack did. So whether people realize that it's his name realize or not, his real legacy is that hemp is a viable crop and more acreage is being grown every year.
Yeah, and you can actually get his book online for free
grow
and read it online for free.
As far as the state goes, you can grow it legally in the state of Colorado.
Well, my good friend Jason Love, he actually has worked with the studio as well. He wrote the hemp phytoremediation bill here in Colorado, and there is a pilot program right now the governor has signed into law where they are growing a limited number of plants to rejuvenate soil, to reclaim soil from whatever, nuclear waste, whatever the case may be. And Amendment 64, our legislators are instructed through that by 2014 to allow the growth of hemp. We'll see, that's where the whole rulemaking process comes in and steering them in the right direction with that. It's a huge, huge potential. Hemp, I say all the time, we can take back our economy with hemp alone.
Well, don't plan on growing outdoors if there's going to be a big hemp crop in Colorado.
Because it will pollinate and ruin all of our medicine. Yeah. And that's a great discussion to have. It's come up many times with, and I'm, to premise this, a lot of grow knowledge, I'm an idiot. One of the reasons I asked for your books was so that I can relearn stuff, but on a side note. But yeah, that's come up many times in conversation. It would have to be indoor grown, otherwise it's just going to be swept into our mountain breeze every day, and it's going to cause problems. Sam, should we take a break?
Hemp could save the world.
I think Sam told me like 10 minutes ago we had to take a commercial break, so maybe we should do that. So we've got a few more minutes left with you guys when we get back, but right now we're going to pay a few bills. Stick with us here on Overgrow the Radio. Peace.
Dixie Elixirs, the patient's choice for alternative medical marijuana treatment, brings you Dixie Botanicals all-natural topical therapy, including massage oil, pain relief salve, and our newest product, Dixie Botanicals Pain Relief Lotion. This all-natural lotion pairs beautifully with Dixie Botanicals bath salt for a deeply relaxing experience with no psychotropic effect. Like us on Facebook, Dixie Elixirs, or join us at www.dixieelixirs.com.
The law offices of Edson, Maton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Hi, I'm Josh Stanley.
And I'm Jesse Stanley.
Two of the brothers here from National Geographic's American Weed, and we'd like to invite you to come into our dispensaries in Colorado Springs. Come in for the most pure organic strain selection in Colorado. It's all hand-grown by the Stanley brothers, especially for our patients. So come in and visit us at our two locations, East Platte and West Colorado. And remember,
always be kind to each other.
That Mad Hatter Smoke Shop has everything from space glass to butane and butane accessories, I tell you what. Located at 6091 West Colfax in Lakewood, and now at 2615 Walnut Street in Denver. Ah! God damn it, Reclaim, put your pants back on.
Hi, Josh Stanley here from National Geographic's American Weed. I'm here with my brothers, and we've just recently put together a foundation in Colorado to allow for cancer patients and other patients of debilitating conditions to be able to get a hold of cannabis-based oil that's just about free of charge. I've just about had it with seeing sick patients suffer needlessly just because they can't afford the proper medication. That's what the Realm of Caring is going to change. Visit therealmofcaring.com. The website will be complete and up on 4/20 of 2012. But until then, please contact any of us Stanley brothers directly through email. You can get us at gratefuljosh@hotmail.com. Now come on, Colorado. We need to take care of each other. Join the Realm. That's realmofcaring.com. Thank you so much.
Are you a runner? Are you a runner who supports marijuana legalization? Run on Grass is a group of athletes actively seeking to change our marijuana laws. We speak the truth about cannabis, bringing the message through our feet to new ears. Check out runongrass.com to find out more about us, our events, and how to join up or how to sponsor a runner. If you're in the Denver area, please join us for runs or start a group in your area. Running not your thing? Any sport can do it. On grass. Runongrass.com.
And we're back on Overgrow the Radio. Sam's like, come on, man, talk. But I was trying to talk to someone else. I apologize. So we're back with Mr. Ed Rosenthal, the guru of ganja, and his, I'm just going to say his lovely assistant, Shelly. How's that? She's been sitting in the corner very quietly. Are you enjoying your friend's visit?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to make you talk, and it worked. So, Holly, we'll jump back in. Holly had something that she wanted to talk about.
Yeah, no, I just really, I know we have just a few more minutes left, and I just wanted to get a little background from you. How many books have you put out total?
That's a hard question.
I don't know.
Any, like 20?
Yeah, about 20, yeah.
Okay, cool. Can you tell me the first time that you smoked?
First time that I smoked.
The first cannabis use that Ed Rosenthal ever had.
Yeah, I was, I dropped out of college and I went back to college, and I was in, and it was in Youngstown, Ohio. And let's see, and this roommate of mine and I decided to buy some marijuana and try it.
Did you like it your first time?
Yeah, this was in 1966. Yeah, and by the third time, I realized I realized it was an ally. And I had read these books by these Don Juan, these books about a Mexican shaman, Don Juan, by Carlos Castaneda, and he talked about using this smoke, that it was his ally. And I realized this was what was missing from my life, all my life. So. And, and I believe that I was suffering from marijuana deficiency syndrome. And that is that with some,